Constance Mackenzie. Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi. Ryan O'Neal as Rodney Harrington. Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson. Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson. Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington. Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington. James Douglas as Stephen Cord.
Tonight, Eddie Jacks is a cornered man. Cornered by the kindness of his daughter Rita, who has insisted on taking care of him while he suffered from a heavy cold. A cold Eddie faked in order to leave his job early and carry out an extraordinary mission. Rita has been truly concerned about Eddie, and her efforts to take care of him represent her first chance to show him that she accepts him completely as her father. She has fought hard to build an atmosphere like this, a place where Eddie could stay. Now, finding him gone, Rita can only assume that Eddie has walked out on her. She has no way of knowing that Eddie left the apartment to enter the home of Mott and Peyton.
Ada? Who's this?
Miss Harrington.
Oh, what can I do for you?
Are Norman and Rita there by any chance?
No, they were a little earlier, but they left with Eddie.
With Eddie?
Yeah, he wasn't feeling so good. I think they were going to put him up for the night.
I see. Well, thank you.
So long.
There are those who would have delivered the drinks before they gabbed on the telephone.
That drink is it, my friend.
You're 86, ain't you?
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Cool, lady. I'm going to nurse this one far into the night.
Stephen, why don't you go home?
Ooh, rude lady. I remember you when you were friendly. A short while ago. Now look at you.
Well, what do you want me to do, entertain you?
As a matter of fact, yes. Sit down, gracious lady.
How's your marriage, Stephen?
How's my marriage? My marriage is a thing of beauty. A joy forever.
Look, if you can't go home, why don't you go get yourself a room at the inn?
But go.
Right.
That's really very funny. You know why it's really very funny? My wife's staying at the inn.
Then go on home.
How's your marriage?
I don't have any.
You told me you never were divorced.
Okay, so technically I'm still married.
Now, don't get that look. As if I were invading your private life.
Well, you are.
I seem to recall an awful lot of advice tumbling out of those ruby lips. An awful lot of advice about my feelings toward my grandfather.
I run a tavern. People ask me questions, I have to answer. Have to say something.
How's your marriage?
Eddie's impossible, I'm impossible. How could it ever work?
Wasn't there something at the beginning?
Eddie owned this joint and I worked for him. Yeah, there was something at the beginning, all right. Convenience.
What is it, Ada? What's the secret? Somebody somewhere must be happy. There've got to be two people in this town who are making it.
Sure. Take the Carsons.
All right. The Carsons. All mature and responsible and warm and loving on the surface. But what about their private moments?
What about him?
What about all the times Connie wakes up in the middle of the night crying and Elliot hears her and doesn't reach out for her?
You're guessing.
Sure, I'm guessing. But you're not there in the middle of the night, and I'm not there. Maybe they have all kinds of unspoken things between them.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe she comes out of the nursery all sweetness and light and comes upon Elliot staring out the window. Staring. Why is he so unhappy? Why is he brooding?
What are you looking for, Stephen? Failure?
A good marriage. No, scratch that. A reasonable marriage. A marriage that works. Really works. Ada, I made a decision. I'm going to turn into a professional peeping Tom.
What?
That's right. I'm going to wander through the streets, peeking in windows. Yeah, looking at husbands and wives, trying to eavesdrop.
Trying to find the secret.
Yes. Someone must have it. Somewhere there's got to be a couple. Two people who have made it. Look at me, Ada. Now tell me, is it possible for a man and a woman to live together?
No. But they can't live apart either.
It's a pretty good trap.
Pretty good.
That's the best I could do, Mr. Peyton. Roast beef and milk.
A bachelor supper, huh?
I guess so.
A little less spectacular than my first wedding.
Really had a blast, huh?
Oh, yes, quite a blast. In those days, it was a ritual. My friends kidnapped me, took me to a cave outside of Boston. It was decorated as if at a wake. Black wreaths and black candles. Frank Townsend read a decree banishing me from the ranks of bachelorhood forever. Afterwards, we ate a whole roast pig. Yes, it was quite a celebration. I barely got to church the next morning.
That sounds great. You know, the night before I married Sandy,
Huh?
I went out and I got stoned.
Well, from my brief encounter with that young lady, I think it was a wise precaution.
You're really going to go through with it, aren't you?
With the marriage?
Yeah. You know, I never thought when it came right down to the wire that... Maybe I'm stupid or something, but I just can't figure out what it is that she's got on you that you'd have to marry her.
Well, who told you you were supposed to figure it out?
You told me that we were going to be like a team, that you would make plans and I'd carry them out for you. And all of that's great, but you won't even tell me what this dame's doing to you. Now, I could help you out. I've been around a little bit.
Oh, very little bit. No, Lee, no, I'm afraid that you're out of your league.
Listen, Mr. Payton. A rotten dame's a rotten dame, and the maid's
All
born of
right,
minors.
that's enough, Lee.
You really play it close to the vest, don't you? Now, I'm going to be sleeping in that room over the garage. Big deal. A lot of good it's going to do you. If a lion came right through that window, you'd be too stubborn to yell.
Lee, come back here. Come here. You're right, Lee. I do play it close to the vest. That's why I've survived all these years. That's why I'm alive and flourishing. When those young bucks who fated me that night in the cave are either dead or paupers. I've outlived my generation, Lee. It's a very lonely feeling.
Mr. Payton, you know that if there was anything I could do to make it easier for you, I'd do it. You just give me a chance.
Very well. Let me tell you a story. Once there was a great man, a wise man, a scientist. His work was the saving of human life, the relief of suffering. His work had always been enough for him, until he, in his latter years, was persuaded that he was lonely. So he took a wife, a woman years younger than himself. In a very short time, she had reduced him to desperation, run through his money, been unfaithful countless of times, openly ridiculed him and everything he stood for. But he loved her, so he was powerless to retaliate.
Mrs. Van Lyden.
Yes. Ultimately, She killed him.
You mean that she...
Just as surely as if she had thrust a knife into him. You see, Lee, she destroyed his will to live, his faith in himself. Phillip Van Wyden was my best friend. I wouldn't be alive today if it weren't for him. I owe him a debt. And Lee, I intend to pay.
You're not marrying her for the reason that you told me.
There are some crimes our society cannot punish. So I must be my own judge and my executioner, if justice is to be done. Now you know.
I knew nobody was bulldozing you. And I can see it now. I can see why you've been so tense lately. And why you wanted me to be the one to give you your medicine.
Yes, Lee. Revenge is a dangerous game. My money baited the trap. But I made myself very vulnerable. When you back someone into a corner, you must expect them to spring. Tonight, I don't know, Lee. I felt a sixth sense. A sense of danger. You see, Mrs. Van Lyden isn't my only enemy. This marriage of mine is a turning point in so many lives.
You don't worry, Mr. Payton. If anybody wants to get to you, they've got to go by me. And there's no way they can do that. No way.
Thank you, Lee.
If it'll make your sleep any easier, I'll be up and around all night.
Open that drawer. Take out that case. Now, open it. Well, take it, Lee. It's yours. I meant it for Rodney, but he's soft. He doesn't want to face reality. He prefers to live a life of dreams. Your origins were humble, Lee. But at least they tempered you into a man.
I don't know what to say, Mr. Payne. Other than you won't regret it.
Give me my word.